And we are back with the great Ace Attorney. I want to finish the first of the two great Ace Attorney games as soon as possible, because we just started the Apollo Justice trilogy yesterday. I think last we left off, right, we are in this trial. We're halfway through this game, I think. Meh.
I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury,
Oh, right, it's this thing.
and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman.
We are, my lord.
Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the courts the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime.
I liked the previous made better. The accuser left behind at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of this.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
I don't remember what she sounded like.
Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window is closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with the direct hit.
Look, I just want to get this. Even if I don't bring some hopes of pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes.
I don't remember what voices I did. It was so long ago.
Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all the members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course.
My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime.
Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means, I'm afraid, that during this summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. I wonder. Audio, voices, skip, sample, gameplay. Yeah, there's no options for Japanese voices. Not in that menu, anyway. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then.
That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel.
Oh, yes, my lord. Right, Ryunosuke. Focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say, Mrs. Garrideb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garrideb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes! Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garrideb and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. I got it. Gotta keep your eye on the birdie. Double Sunday. The defense's rebuttal. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. Press.
Hold it!
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? Nothing. there's every possibility that the fourth book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Landlords are guilty regardless. Honestly, I can't see what all this paddle is about. It's a done deal, isn't it? Suppose it is, since I have nothing way left to say. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Okay, so you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Nay, I shan't. Despite what you may think of me, I'm a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. But if one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see? Modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. It is! This is racially motivated! It's fucking... dudes being racially profiled! Just by one or two minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Oh god. Skeptical YouTuber. Facts don't care about your feelings. Overwhelming. But us modern gals... No! No! That was not... They did not fucking say that! They would not fucking say that in the 1800s. I'm gonna have to look that up when the word gal was invented. So I'd only be too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I've got to put it rational there. Suizatsu, our fellow countryman, is on his life is on the line here. Even if the one was found bugs, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? But was the window closed? Let's see what we got. Crime scene, relevant. Shit, I have no way of proving the window was... whatever. What if the window wasn't... What about the possibility that the window was open? Or, what if the window was broken? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So, no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, would you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point of even having windows, huh?
Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering.
Bickering is my job. Oh, sorry. Bickering's my job. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise.
Dearie me, it was only a little bug. Hardly life-threatening, even with a little hit.
I don't... Let's ask him about that. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? It could be important.
Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was.
You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? How do you celebrate?
Well, of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, honestly.
It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't come out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire?
What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it.
The windows. Oh!
The bite and winter rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I got a terrible cold from it. It put me in hospital for a week. I wouldn't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. Oh. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he, or she, could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes, I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go for a strike. Okay, pit him. This one.
Objection.
Boom! Those two juror statements clearly contradict one another.
They do? How exactly, counsel?
Don't put at me again! I told you it wasn't me!
What's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up.
Juror number 3. Do you see? Oh, mate? See what, sir? I'm just doing a different voice for him every time. Fuck it. Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be bad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garrideb household, and Mr. Garrideb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh! Ooh.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garrideb!
Oh, dearie me! What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am?
It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now.
Oh, what is it?
When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window?
What? I beg your pardon. Oh, what are you insinuating?
The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire, after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window.
And what if we did?
Huh?
Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering.
You guys got a divorce, even though your house was on fire. Did divorce exist at this point?
Oh, you never stop throwing them until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nurse to do otherwise.
Oh, of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garrideb's formal statement.
Okay. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true.
Objection.
Damn it!
Hold it.
Oh. The testimony contradicts the evidence. No. Fuck. Okay, okay. Clouded Kokoro. If there was some novel explanation about how the victim was stabbed. You have 3 books. The window could have been open. Winter houses are dire. This could be it. Nope. Let's just do that again. That again. Okay. I'll just have to press.
Hold it!
Elaborate on it. The 4th book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garrideb told us he had been reading.
Well, I really couldn't say.
On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes.
It flew through the window.
He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right.
Burning books is unforgivable. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset?
Did you slap that other guy? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know.
I really don't.
I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it.
What is that?
Excuse me.
Scoozy. What is it, juror number 5?
You know something? I've remembered what it was. That memory I've blocked out.
Ah. I remember.
I was listening to what this granny was saying, but it all flooded back. Ah! Who do you call it a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garrideb, or the maid, I'll have you know.
The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. Yeah, the plight of the working class.
It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole! Every last penny had dropped out!
Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh?
The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall next to me, it did, about an inch deep.
Why is there so much domestic violence in this town? I'm not counting the 2, young, I'm not counting the guard and his wife as domestic violence. She's just tugging on his scarf. Oh, they're cute. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. That's right, kids. It's pronounced Thames, not Thames.
I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you.
Man. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? Hell hath no fury, like a woman in Victorian, Edwardian England.
I'll never use the word lightly again.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Lose their rag. Is that, like... I apologize for this. I did not write this. Okay? I do not... Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, of course not. I'm sorry, women. Oh, no, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. Yeah, at least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in a rage will throw almost anything at you. Kitchen knife.
Objection.
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection!
Good grief. You mean they don't contradict each other?
Oh my god, they did it! They did the consent! I agree with that! Consent! Juror number 2. Do you think, perhaps, that this could be one such novel alternative?
Oh my, whatever do you mean?
An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? I'm just giving up on the voices. We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, was found at the scene of the crime. That was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below.
Eh? What's that now?
After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4?
Oh, what are you insinuating now, you little beanpole?
I'm beginning to think that, ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened.
Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala.
Racism again.
As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it?
A knife, you dumbass! I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't had any real evidence to back it up. Trust in the force, Ryunosuke. Be racist against the British. What? Can't be racist to the British people. They have no souls. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman. I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrideb household to the scene of the crime was this knife. Juror number 4, Mrs. Garrideb.
What now?
I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before?
Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man.
Slam. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garrideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene.
You can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp.
Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Even my missus hasn't got an item like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand, but that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end. Not right now.
Oh my.
Ah! Why did I do that? Do. Wombats getting married. Unfortunately, my beloved fiancé currently resides in Paprika Blue, and is likely being murdered as we speak. But on the plus side, I'm single again. Oh, behave. Mrs. Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before, or not? Mamma mia! I'm a guilty! Guilty! Woo-hoo-hoo. My lord!
I wish to change my decision.
I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madame.
Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions.
Mr. Foreman. And the other guy.
I'd have to agree.
Not that I think the granny didn't mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents.
Well, one lady. I mean, I don't know. That could be a woman in drag. Juror number 3 could be a woman in drag. You never know. We did it! Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's submission examination, a number of jurors' opinions have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue.
Wow.
Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the
Zeeks.
how's the prosecution how's the prosecution wish to proceed?
If it was E before I, that would have been less confusing. Like Zeitgeist. Zykes. This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. A farce is a mixture of ground up beef and spices and water used, and that's how they make hot dogs. It's like a corked wine. The first few sips are bitter enough. Dude takes 1 sip of every glass and throws it into the fire. That's how it does it every time. Just like Reaper in Overwatch. Shoot, drop the guns, take another set of guns. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter.
If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent, but between the crime scene and the Gerlib household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Gerlib's house to the scene is some, 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. I'm bad at, like, imagining measurements, like, a meter. It's always shorter than I imagine it to be. So, like, someone says, oh, 10 meters? Wow, that's really far. Nope, not actually that far. It's just like a brisk walk across the street. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. So she could have noticed it and picked it up. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumbs. It could have landed on the ground. The victim saw it, picked it up to inspect it, and then Gerlib threw the knife, and the knife lodged itself into her back. That could have happened. It could have happened. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Ah! There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Miss Susato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. Pick fewer battles. That's too many battles. Put some back. My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, woman can speak here. What is this, United States? The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. The good old filibuster technique works every time. To that end, juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garrideb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror?
All are equal under the court. Rule of law.
Order! Order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
Ah, fuck! That hit me square in the face. And unnecessary.
Lord Van Zeeks.
There were already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly.
Yes. What say you, witnesses? Yeah. What? Yes, sir. Constable Rawley Beat reporting for duty, sir.
Well, good morning, officer.
Sorry if the doesn't until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir.
Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies.
Right, what's all this then? Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more.
Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Cheers, love!
Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request.
You fucker.
And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
Ha!
You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrett house are top-hinged casements.
Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the sift to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
I didn't take my time off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows.
That detail was not in the police report, Constable.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable.
Sorry for being a man.
Some crimes cannot be forgiven. Block this overhead! Astral finish! I'm sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you... you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friends. Man, this idiot doesn't even know what a top-hinged casement window is. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's room. Alright, I'll try. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see. I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain point. It's probably to prevent people from committing suicide. It prevents its opening? This is all news to me.
Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown to the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below.
Ow! You see the problem then? Good. Your education in windows is complete. Da-da-da-da. There was never any kind of possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered. Something we've discounted already. I can't. Ah! Did you see that, Rolly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Yeah, man. Jesus. You're so strong. God damn it. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Womp womp.
Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination.
Ugh. My lord. Oh, good. Another desperate situation.
This case has nothing to do with Mr. Garrett. Believe me, Ellen, Bobby is good for his word. See, sir, the windows on the top of the house are top-edged casements.
Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
I know it. Cheers, love. Sorry. The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can't it guide you to answer the question?
If a flaming bug had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star.
And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Make a wish, honey. Wish I could do a Squidward scream. A proper Squidward scream. Can't do it. I'm not nasally. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said 3 times at least.
Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir.
It certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Why would...
I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. You got me expected in another location of every police box and every beat.
Sir Rolly told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way.
Presumably ours as well. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me.
Okay, this is getting boring. Oh, brother! Good grief! So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. Shit, I can't fucking... My Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I was off duty at the time, of course, but true Bobby's never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my ear off the crime scene for 1 minute, sir. Nothing strange to report.
Nothing to report?
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes open the entire time, never looked away for a second. Nothing else about the scene, nothing was removed from it.
There was a burning... There was smoke coming out of the window. Surely you would have noticed that.
I can swear to that on the odds honest, sir.
Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me.
This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Yeah. Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time?
Could it be a different copy, sir? One just as happened to be burnt as well?
Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder.
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene.
Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. Sorry. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. Must be some common thread between them. I'm so sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out. What do you mean? I requested a cross-examination of Mrs. Garrett without consulting you, even if the judge did deny me. Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Mrs. Garrett if we're ever going to get to the truth of this matter. Do you really think so? Well, think about it. No matter how far it is from across... no matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Mr. Garrett's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it? You're right. And then there was Mrs. Garrett's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something, I'm sure of it. You're right again. We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another, I swear. Yes. I'm thinking about the time Phoenix ate glass. Hey, do you know that your great-grandson is gonna eat glass? That was funny. My heart. I loved her. Where?
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Blah, blah, blah. But what if... the stay was broken? Ooh. Here's the location where objects would have fallen.
Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road.
Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this stoppage casement thing before? Yeah, surprise evidence. I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house is furnished with? Well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Oh!
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Mrs. B? Sorry? You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rowley's beat. It was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that street, Briar Road, that's the boundary between Rowley's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Yeah, big booty bitches. Constable B. Huh? Yeah, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garrett household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir. That really was cutting it close, then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby after all. Hello, Wendy. I'm the Freedom Fridge. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of our Londoners. You know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Worley for all his hard work.
Don't you think so, my darling?
That must be it, Pamela. That must be it. I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. The case file's information has been updated in the court record. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable's Beat, the board of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. That's a weird way to divide precincts. And now it's my turn, I think. Obviously, if anything were thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. So let's look at that fucking... That's Bart Rosen. That's where that happened. So that means... Believe me, nothing to do with it? Hold on.
Hold it!
First, I'll press him. How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all his policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Really? I don't remember. Can't say I remember. Yeah, well, I would like to resolve that he's a London town and uphold the peace of the common man. That's what this job's all about. Yeah? Well, I have an armband, and it proves that I'm a real lawyer. Look, it's even got a badge. And that's why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly. Sir.
Oh, well, yes, wait.
I will never be a professional voice actor. No, none of this is what I meant. Whatever, I'm more into... writing. Gamers. How can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb? I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well... So could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Huh? Yeah? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution is Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. Tears of boredom, maybe.
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir?
Yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell.
I'm just... What? I wasn't I mean, what's she doing? It's my job! I'm just...
Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable.
Yeah, Naruhodo.
You might just see me as the wife of the policeman, but I'm no woman on my word I am.
Yeah. Learn how to... You got it. Oh, have you been disrespecting woman? I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. Cancelled.
No excuses. I don't want to hear it.
Sorry.
My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beat.
I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one.
That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that! That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I'm not trying to get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't.
You know, 40% of policemen's spouses are, commit perjury. Google 40% police to look up to learn more. Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask of you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Oh, so that's new. I'm gonna examine this shit. Item 1. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. Item 2. A patrolman officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Item... Metropolitan Police Regulations. Item 1. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Item 2. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives.
Hold it!
So that means... Mrs. Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us. I saw what I did that evening. I saw it clearly. A little lazy man with the whiskers and the funny curve back slinking away from the crime. God damn it. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction.
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really.
I'm always ended up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to eat Molly. Cheers, love. Cheers, ever so cross. Constable Beat, is there a problem? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, sir. No problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all. Huh? You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15.
Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly.
The bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it just now. Had you, my darling?
Ah! Hmm? Ah! Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about to anyone else, darling. You have the promise.
Really? Oh.
What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet. Okay. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to.
I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked, I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first.
And then, you went to the police box to report to the policeman whose beat it was on?
Yep, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased.
I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice call me from the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably?
That's right. Silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there. I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite.
Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Broly bought me. With that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. Broly. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh, he's also classist.
Yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Broly bought me for our anniversary, with old bits of chains he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose.
Tell Sword of Zeke's where did you come by the flower?
According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Gyarudib household. In front of the Gyarudib's house? Sorry. Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Seeing the cause must be to drop the rose where she stood. But it's a symbol of our love.
I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief, rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. B. Hello, Wendy. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Another report on that front, sir.
Sorry. Save it. When I play a different game, I gotta do different muscle memory, because like playing Baldur's Gate, what it is, it's pause and then press Y, and that's how you quick save. Here, that doesn't work, so a lost drop. Nothing to report. But what about the bouquet? Newspaper. It's a very stylish paper the file's wrapped in, isn't it? Yeah, it's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English paper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Ah, Suzato-san, you do love your cakes. Why not just wrap a cake in newspaper? Come on, this has gotta work. Oh! You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. Yeah.
What do you mean to...
Cheers, love! What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. B, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that amiga bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Mika!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor.
But the boutique belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. Slam! More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way round. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mr. Beast's Mrs. Beast's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrideb's book. Mr. Garrideb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. West side! And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. B's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street, but in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. The body was moved! There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them.
Man, what are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it seems like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. Which are not about books and bouquets. Why should we care? Which nitpicking, that's what it is.
Nope, you are nitpicking and biased. I win. Bye-bye. Oh, good. Mrs. Garrideb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrideb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering. Tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. Am I good or am I good? But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
My tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All of the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person.
Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Yeah, again, I instinctively pressed Y because I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 for too long. Anyway, it's you. No, 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 no! There's only one person who could have done this. What?
You intend to share your internal monologue, Counsel?
Sorry, my lord. I was just taking a moment to get things straight in my mind. And for that moment of wasted course time, if you will pay the price. Fuck you. There we go. Never happened. Who tampered with crime? The detective secretary Scotland Yard's inspector of the cake. Could have been him. Who witnessed the last? It had. He was the only one there. It could have been him. It had to have been him. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly B. It was you.
What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would Rolly do something like that?
There's no one straighter than my husband. X to doubt. No Bob who works more tirelessly for the people of London. Nobody in this game is straight, except for Larry. Mrs. Beat. What you said in your testimony that your husband asked you... You said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you are absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Sammer, if that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it.
Oh.
And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene.
Ah, well.
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. Ah, you claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there is only one reason anyone would want to commit such a reckless crime: to hide something.
That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You offered no motive for this alleged tampering, and until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Oh, I already know it. Miss Nardhild, have you managed to solve this mystery? I think I did.
Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, you will be counseled. I'm not sure I need to point out that your petitioner's lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stock warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. Ugh. Constable B's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs.
What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel.
If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? Over here.
Take that!
But that's...
On the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Garrett's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. B, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Good gracious! Oh, good heavens!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right. I saw it with my own eyes.
Why am I making it sound like Miss Piggy? It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. Oh! He moved all the things shown in this print. The victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Sorry, I gaffed.
Extraordinary.
But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it laid where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position, on the pavement on the east-west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond, Constable Rolly Beat?
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, really? true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding and righteous man I know.
Womp womp. I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. All the things I said. All the things I said. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Oh! Oh! Only, it seems, it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly.
No.
Order! 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 What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Levi, why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one too.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town.
I can't say, sir.
What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything.
I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman.
And yet, Lord Van Zeeks, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary and lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
It's the warrant card.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I've only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I may just be a simple country boy, but cornbread don't go sideways in the wintertime. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example.
Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on this beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly.
But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special.
Special? How?
On account of this boutique, my lord.
Oh, yes! It was our very first wedding anniversary!
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? What must have gone through the man's mind?
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. B puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I just wanted to show my dear wife how much I count.
This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Constable Beat. Is that, or is that not, the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day?
Yes. Everything you said, it's alright.
So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat.
Ah!
Exactly. To summarize, The incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Ha.
Good gracious. Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you've done?
It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Oh! Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's the copper's job to guard the scenes of crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch you as I was on duty there. It was then when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right across Meerschaum Street, and then... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner.
Rolly!
Just that one night.
Yeah. You know that if the incident was on your beat, your evening celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street, to the east pavement of Burr Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon!
Of course he did! Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement.
Ah, I see your meaning now.
I see your meaning now.
But God got me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat.
Oh no, Rolly, that was my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly.
Would have gotten away with it if it weren't for your wife. And can you tell us, Constable? How many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total? 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsumi, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household. Of course! But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir. Interesting. The 4th book's information has been updated in the court record. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the two people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off without who done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. They've had it. Ah, don't worry about it. Worst case scenario, you get suspended with pay. My lord.
Yes, Lord Van Zix.
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir!
Mr. Prosecutor, sir, what will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will come to contact you in due course.
But please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late.
Even now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired.
All right then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you.
Yes, sir.
Salary cutting noises! Salary cutting noises! Carve that lesson into your mind. Salary cutting noises! And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Never again, sir. You mean to say?
Leave now. This trial is not yet over.
Sir. Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of the third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that?
Indeed, my lord, and nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Suzuki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime.
Nuh-uh.
Fuck you mean nuh-uh?
No, I disagree.
Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already.
Lord Van Zix, is this true?
Very well. Name the person, if you will, and if further investigation is warranted, the prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing.
You name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime.
Of course, it was Mrs. Joan Garrett. The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord.
Once again?
My assistant made sure the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it is imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garrett.
Me? Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
And that request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garrett, answer me this.
What do you want now, you little toad?
At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garrett. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looked out over Briar Road.
Well, what's of it?
You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open top-hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident.
Yes, and as I said, what of it?
During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garrett. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there and all that regalia said members of the jury needed to testify, didn't he? Rule of law, motherfucker! Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake. Your jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. Yeah! If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common or garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. I have several like it at home. Ha! If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Mrs. Garrett. Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought of that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Unless it was... Oh, the poor woman. So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh! If only we had forensic evidence. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zieks. I'm going to have to testify.
Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed, truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me! So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrett, and mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels?
Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. The previous guy died! Oh, whatever. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer! Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes, my name is John Garrett. And I'm, well, I'm a juror and such like.
It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. Yeah, this is fucking, why does the wife have to pretend to be the maid? Misogyny? Why couldn't the...
The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam?
Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Hey, chin up, Johnny. Nothing to worry about now. Oh, hey, Moon Man. I didn't know you were here, John.
It wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather that I called to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade face-to-face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you're Mr. John Garrett.
Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of... Sorry. Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Yeah!
Seen my fair share of action, and now living the quiet life, as it were.
A quiet life where you're not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question. Does the couples therapy exist yet? Yes, well, quite.
I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Call a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will now hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question.
Sir, at once.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I noticed if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back was one of ours, we'll have a job proving it, I think. Okay, this should be easy. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a knot's whisker away from death at any moment.
Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife.
In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. And Zeexwell may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I'm afraid so.
Sorry. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Why can't I skip the text? That's so weird. Examine the knife. It's just a knife. Whatever. One or two. You'll have a job proving it, I think.
So you have no intention of being with your wife of,
So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife unless we can produce proof. I forgot about the fucking... Even though there is no other credible possibility of Nurse Natsume is innocent.
Objection!
You forgot my Nipponese friend. Yet it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. Guilty until proven innocent bullshit. As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who handled the knife. But I suppose wizardry like that is just a dream. Shadow Wizard Money Gang. We love casting spells. Legalize nuclear weapons. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo.
What? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of wizardry really exists?
Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from the skin. Or so they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Stoneheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice.
Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation.
But for now, we'll have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion. That this knife found at the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. Ugh. Only I could transfer this whole incident several years in the future. Yeah, or 1,000 years. Wait, 100 years. What do you think, Mr. Naruto? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Worried that was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So, for Sasaki-san's sake, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Okay. Okay.
Hold it!
Tell me more. Sorry, would you care to elaborate?
Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see. Pipes and whatnot. Fishing tackle. You know the sort of thing.
It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too, and then there's my leatherwork.
Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place, and we have dozens of the things.
They sell them at the market sometimes. 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at mealtimes too, instead of a knife and fork.
What?
Ah!
There we go. I imagine because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. Because if there's one thing the British people hate, it's being embarrassed. Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witness.
Sure.
If that belly thing... picking up whatever I could find to throw at them. Which would include a knife, right? Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That's most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. You throw a person! How did you know I was thinking that? Mother, I didn't even know you were thinking that. So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? Almost said victim.
In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel,
By
and...
Jupiter! Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garridip.
Don't shout. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Did your wife's remark just now, bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no.
Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and a fire poker, I seem to recall. Ouch.
And the woman's game is uncanny. She'll land a direct hit with everybody. Ah!
Good grief, woman! We're at home now. This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear.
Surely that should warrant her being held in contempt of court. But nope. Kangaroo court. Kangaroo fucking court. What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, honestly.
We'll take a look at this, then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage.
Oh, I see. Your pipe was broken. What if it was cut in half?
would have never been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now. Haha, you're one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? Get a fucking divorce. I wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important. The defense believes Mr. Garridub's remarks just now to be of great significance. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Also tells us that we need divorce. Legalized divorce. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed. Common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Well, I don't see why not. Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a lady. I hate this trial. This is the fucking big top of the Great Ace Attorney. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Apparently it fell to the floor during a domestic dispute he had with his wife and broke. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh, no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Susato saved my life so many times. Oh, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garridub. Now, if you could return to the crux of the matter, what can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garridub's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considered a sentimental value to Mr. Garridub. Given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this, where'd he get... Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Where'd he get blue wood? Did he paint it? There's a small nick out the bowl here. Look! It appears to have been made relatively recently. And see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. Seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. Oh god, I do not have Apollo's cords of steel. This particular nick is catching my eye, though. Because it's clearly new. Ooh. Is the, Plenty of knives. Okay. Save first. I got you now. I got you now.
Objection.
Dang it. Okay, let me think. Knife. Plenty of knives. Set fire to the carpets, you know. Okay. Can I, like, maybe I missed some... Oh! Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. Oh. Oh, I got you now, motherfucker.
Objection.
Mr. Garridub, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? Used to call me Dead-Eye Deb back in the regiment, of course, but that was some time ago now.
Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word.
You're like, just like my mom. You must be very dussy. But dussy. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did this defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe.
My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got in there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road?
I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord.
You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well, then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
The knife.
Take that!
This is the knife that was found on the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals use them regularly with the tips lodged in the victim's bones. Ew. Where did you procure the bones?
And what of this particular knife?
No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, languishing somewhere near the spine of its victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Ah! Good grief.
Lord Van Zykes?
I don't believe it. Do you have a heart? The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match.
Good. Good golly gosh!
Bro, his ass is burnt.
Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery?
Bro. This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle?
So Van Zykes has figured it out, has he?
Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once.
Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of the soft projectiles did. Yes. We've never been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid.
A knife.
Oh, dearie me.
During the argument between these two that occurred, just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrideb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrideb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course.
Good lord!
Yes. And that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe.
The chances are a million to one!
They're not zero! And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window.
Ah!
In short, this knife
which fell from the window of the Gayrideb's house is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no!
Objection!
Ah. That's the wine, says a full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost possible vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry, but after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, then it's spoilt by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What?!
Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you've claimed to have identified?
An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... Slap. That's right, you silly little man. I'm taller than you.
Now, show no thing, what are you getting so excited about?
Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. Yeah.
Order! Order!
Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. She was, well, this is what I've been saying. The book fell out, she reached to pick up the book, and as she was bending over, bam! She got stabbed! Ah.
It would appear the defense has made rather a spectacular blunder.
If the theory has even one consistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history.
Ugh.
We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and the theory will stand. Mrs. Otto! You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard. That's all. And your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. God damn it, the hiccups. 1 second. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying?
Counsel!
There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer.
Oh, goodness! Utter madness! Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak.
This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the fallen knife became lodged in the victim's back is the book! This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book.
Is that all Mr. Garridub's book?
Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all now know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that.
Not quite so, as part of his wholesale transport to the crime scene to the opposite side of the road.
That's true. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand?
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound.
Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything.
So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand?
By Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Oh, dearie me.
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garridub household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
The book I threw?
Yes, Mrs. Garridub. And what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down,
Bump.
and picked the book up.
Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book.
Oh, heavens!
And when the woman reached down to pick up the fallen book, what position would her back have been in? That's right, face in the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Sozeki Natsume.
Well, I never.
It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor, in the dark and the fog. He didn't see the knife falling on her from above.
Oh!
And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker.
So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place.
No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Wow. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garridub,
the very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions.
I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
Hello, Albane.
I'm pulling Mrs. Garrideb.
I feel...
Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book. And I threw the knife as well. John, dear.
It's alright, I know.
I want a divorce. I'm ever so sorry.
Fuck!
Lift with your legs, bro. Lift with your leg. Aww.
Lord Van Zix, what news of Mrs. Garrideb?
She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events have left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There's no cause for concern.
Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could have easily been a terrible tragedy. They shall have prepared themselves for the consequences of their actions,
and hopefully get... That marriage is dangerous. They need a divorce for the safety of everyone on Briar Road.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon.
It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we never once met her. How wonderful! The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Mr.
Sasaki Natsume.
Yes.
On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies.
No, it is me who should be begging your pardon.
Oh no, Mr. Natsume.
And even when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again, in my confusion.
What conclusion, sir?
I was sure that the woman was dead.
Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless.
It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me.
Poor Sasaki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him.
Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should have never dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Busting a nut. Instead, I have managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry.
One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions.
You could say we were bamboozled.
But thanks to Lord Van Zix and our London lawyer here from the east,
Oh, fuck you! He didn't do shit!
that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both.
Oh. My name is Naruhodo Ryunosuke. Say it!
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Yes, my lord.
in this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court?
As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Send it in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time.
I say I'll have a cork of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Very well, Mr. Sasaki Natsume, I hereby pronounce you.
Woo! Yeah, baby. That's what we're waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woohoo! We are. Ooh.
And finally, Mr. Natsume,
Oh, yes, Lord, sir.
you are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me.
Oh, yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in the courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Posing.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned.
Oh, Locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course! Is there another Locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, her name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Why? Oh, at last! I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant jubilation! Heady, hearty happiness! Hurrah! Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard to just say that, then? Locum, you did it! You saved me from the break! Well, what happened to the poor woman who was in no way... what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. Oh, no, not that! Lovely, loyal Locum lawyer! Yes? I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. Nah, everyone here is super racist. But, yeah, you, Locum lawyer, gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Because that's what's to become of all my hard work. Oh, there you are, my default. Ah, best character! I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No! Then my haste was in vain! Ah! It's you! Hairlock Sholmes! Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your beak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light. Charmin. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind! My apologies, sir, but I assure you I have placed you now. You are the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Ah. Had she been taken to a hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human, after all. Don't put the blame on me. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I'm only human, after all. Oh, fuck! Oh, he got me with the fucking circle. Boom. Gotcha. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really. But, boom, that was quite priceless. Poor Sasaki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever you mean, Mr. Natsume. Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper! Ah, Lord Van Ziex. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed! It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. God, he's fucking frantic. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! Boom! With a perfectly executed Susato takedown. I'm just like being turned on my head. A bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. Get rotated, idiot! So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. Well, it has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all! Constipated again. The more I learn of attempt literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Sasaki-san. Could be an interesting read. And what about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? What about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. God. And now, and only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we'd only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? Ah, but what it lacks in windows, and more than makes up for, with a floor, a ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit? Oh yes, it tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. Suffocate? Well, think about it if that's alright. Is it will it take a pillow? Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take in lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So, suggesting we look elsewhere is out, then. Okay, then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes. Wonderful. And I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long. Somebody's happy. Welcome. I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruto? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, with Suzaki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home. 221B Baker Street. Ooh. 20th of February, 1441, the attic room. Epilogue. So this is to be our new office, yes. Pretty spacey for an attic. Our office. I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place? Oh my god! Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's clearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. All right then. Susie, you can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruto, how's it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventure awaits us. Ha 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 ha! Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruto, welcome to London. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came, to lift the facade and see the true depth of the mark that lay behind it. And what could be next?